I usually do a little bit of a little catch up type thing um, before my sale. Oh wait, I think I still have the volume on here. We hit There we go. I was hearing an echo. And do that. So anyhow, welcome everyone. I'm glad you're here. I just thought that I would go over and do a little bit about art yarns. Um, I'm not a professional, that's for sure, but art yarns is something that I've always loved to do. It was like after I started spinning and I got my single and was able to apply, then I decided that art yarns was something that I wanted to do. And it seemed like a thick and thin yarn was a really good way to get started with that. And so today I thought that's what I would do. I did bring out some of my yarns to give you guys an idea here. Um, so with a thick and thin yarn, I mean, most people know what that is. But basically it's where you're spinning your yarn to a thick, where it's more like a slub. You have a thick piece and then it thins out and then another thick piece. So what you can do with that, let's see, just a plain thick and thin, depending on how big you do that. I did a couple with Cheviot because it seems to be a pretty easy fiber to spin, but I'll show you that. So what you have is you have a thick piece and then you have a thin piece and then a thick piece. And so you can, knit or crochet with this right off the bat. It's real easy, make some fun things with it. And you can do it in all different sizes. So this is like, I think the yarn was split down maybe 3 or 4 ways. This other one, some bigger slubs. And this one, real big ones. So depending on the wheel that you use, you can do bigger ones like this. I have a country spinner that I use. And hi, Joanne. Oh, you can hardly hear me? Okay, how about everybody else? I'll speak up a little bit. Let me check if I turn I don't know if it has anything to do with the volume on the iPad. So is that any better? I don't know. So depending on the type of wheel that you use too, you can get bigger, thick and thins like this, or if you're using something smaller, you can do thinner, thick and thins like I did on my Kiwi, which is smaller. That was like this, and then I plied it. So anyhow, once you master that, then you can go on with your thick and thins, and you can make coils, or some folks call them beehives. This is a thick and thin that I plied into that, or shells. It all depends on what you call it. This was another one that I had done. It does take up a lot of yarn to do it. But look, I mean, the end result is fantastic. Look how cool that is. I mean, I think it's pretty awesome. I like it. Anyways, this is a merino bamboo that I dye. If you wanted to do something else fun with it, you can ply it. This is just a thick and thin, and you can see the thick piece here. This is just plied with an eyelash yarn. I saw someone else do it here on the group, and I thought it was fun. But so that's kind of fun too. And then this was the last one. This was another one that was a thick and thin, and then I just coiled it into these beehives. So the next question with that usually is people say, oh, what do you do with art yarns? What I've done in the past, real fun and easy to do, is just weave it. This is a thick and thin, so you can see the little slubs in here. So that's kind of fun. The other thing, get rid of that, is I did make, out of the other thick and thin, I did crochet up, freeform, some little knit warmer or wrist warmers. And those are fun. Or you can take your thick and thin with a combo. This is a hat that I had made. I'm not finished with it yet. I've got all pieces in there still. But it's kind of a fun and funky little winter hat. I mean, why not? I used to sell these at a store up in the up near the ski resort. And so I need to I guess it's not late in the year. It's only January, but I need to do some of those again and get them up into a place up there. But you could do that. And then this one has some thick and thin in it too, with some coarse spun yarn. So it's a lot of fun. I mean, the sky's the limit. You can really do whatever you want to do with it. It just all depends on your imagination and what you want to do. So anyhow, it looks like I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let me get my camera down here and get it in place. So I think that shows a pretty good picture here of what's going on. So this is the country spinner. Volume not great. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'll just talk louder, I guess. Hi, Mary. Hi, Joanne. Hi, Abby. Hi, Mary. Okay. All right. Well, let's just get started. This is the my Ashford country spinner. Now, like I said, you can do a thick and thin. You don't have to have a big wheel like this. The art yarn wheels like this, of course, with the big orifice, it has like a over 1 inch orifice. They're, I think, best for it because you can do some really big slubby yarn, but you can also do it. Well, I guess you can't see it. I have an Ashford Kiwi and it has a smaller orifice. You can do it on that as well. That's not a problem. You can also change this out and get a bigger head for it too. And so you have a bigger orifice that works, but you can still do it with that. You just have to make sure that you split your yarn down. I did do a video earlier, a little reel about how to split the yarn down. I'm going to start with just this Cheviot because it's pretty easy to spin. But basically, I've already got some on here. Let's get started. What I do when I do my thick and thins is I always try to make sure I have a really long, just a nice long core here. So let's split this down. We're not going to do real big ones yet. I'm a little tired today. My son had a birthday over the weekend, and he's a reseller on eBay, and Mercari sells video equipment and DVDs, video games, all that kind of stuff. And so anyhow, we had a huge day of thrifting. I went with him and we hit one of the biggest thrift stores and spent the entire day there. So it was, I'm exhausted. I didn't get back till almost 7:30 last night. So might not plan that the day before a demo next time. So anyhow, so once you get your nice thread going here, a nice long single, what I've learned best that works for the thick and thins is if you treadle slow and go slow to start out. So basically with your lead hand here, you pinch and pull. You got to hold this two at the same time. You're going to pull and you're going to feel the staple length of your fiber. You're going to see it thinning out right there. So when it thins out, you want to slide down and grab it. And then it'll automatically start to twist. So you'll pinch, pull, watch for where the fiber starts to thin out, slide down, pinch it, and pull. And so you could do, if you want to do just small ones or short ones, you can go like that. Or I like to use the full length of the staple length on the roving. So grab, pinch, and pull. And I have a tendency to pull with my back. It just works easier for me. I'm a self-taught spinner. I think I've taken one class, and that was on an art yarn spinning. And it was so long ago, I don't even exactly remember what all we learned. But we went through a couple different things. It seemed like it was pretty technical. And it seemed like there were kind of a lot of rules with that. So I had a hard time following that because it's just, I thought, oh, art yarn is just going to be fun and floofy and you're going to do whatever you want to do, you know. But there is a secret and technique to everything, I suppose. And so it just all depends on how you do it. So you pinch and pull. You can take your thumb and your wrist and kind of do a twist as well. And that works. But like I said, this is a Cheviot. If you've never spun thick and thin before, I would start out with a medium soft fiber, something like a Cheviot, a Corriedale. I definitely probably wouldn't grab a commercial merino right off the bat. It's real slippery. But the Cheviot has lots of, it's not crimpy, but it's got a lot of little hair sticking out. So it's real easy to grab and not lose your length. But it's just like that. So then if we backed it out here, we can see when it's on the wheel, it doesn't look like there's so many slubs, but there really are. They're going to poof up after we soak the yarn or steam it. I like to steam it with mine. That seems to work better because sometimes it's a little bit more sensitive or tricky, like the, where is it? Let me grab that. I thought I had some more. Oh, here, I was going to show you these. So these I steam. So if you decide to do a thick and thin and you're going to end up coiling it into a spiral, then, I don't know the light on that, it's not very good. But see how big of it, you can do these little seashell coils, smaller. And you can do those. But this one I steamed, so I didn't soak it, but it's steamed and the fiber's there, it's all together. Makes a really pretty coiled yarn. This one is done the same way, except I plied it with, let me get it off of here. I plied it with a merino yarn, and I kind of wanted the white to come through too. So I was going to end up weaving with this one, but you can really see the white. I suppose if I didn't like that, I could go back and dye this, dunk it in the dye pot and get it, dye that white there. This was from a bat that I had carded. So I might do that, maybe just for an experiment and see how it comes out. This one is merino bamboo. And this one is just a thick and thin plied with another thick and thin. So it's just kind of, it might look like a beginner's yarn because of that. Sometimes people will say that, they'll go, oh, your beginner yarns, they look like art yarns. But I mean, you know, everything's art. It doesn't matter if you started spinning today or if you start spinning, you know, tomorrow, or if you've been doing it for 10 years. I mean, in my opinion, every little piece of string that, and fiber that you put through your wheel, it's art because it came from you and it's something that you designed. So even if it's a mistake sometimes, sometimes it doesn't come out exactly like you want it. This one I have not steamed yet. This was just a little one that I did the other night. I was trying to do up just a bunch of samples just to get an idea. Because I think that a thick and thin yarn is really the basis for any type of an art yarn or anything that I've done. It has been, aside from coarse spinning. However, you can coarse spin and then go back and you can ply it like this and make coil. So if you coarse spin, and if you coarse spin kind of a thick and thin, then you can end up with some bigger shells too. So it's hard, but it's not really as hard as it looks if you just kind of go with it a little bit. So we can go back again. So if we say, if this is almost a full length, say if we want to do some big slubs, take a bigger piece of it. And let's just kind of join it in here. And get going a little bit. But the sky's really the limit. So here you can really see how it's starting to thin out. Let go, grab it. Your twist will build up. You can even stop treadling at the same time. That sometimes helps. And let it grab. Mary, looks easy. Sometimes they fall apart. Yeah, what I would do, Mary, make sure you're use a fiber, like, or even a Romney, use a Cheviot, or a fiber that's kind of, I don't want to say rough, but definitely not as soft. You know, use one of these fibers. Make sure you get enough twist in it. If it's falling apart, you might be going beyond the staple length. So we know that Cheviot has a staple length, you know, around here. So when you're pulling, just start pulling, and you can see where it thins out right there. Don't get much thinner, because if you do, it'll probably break. So just start your treadling again. Let the twist build up here. Grab here. And then the twist just transfers down here. And literally, my feet are not treadling very fast. So you'll feel the twist building up here. Pull. Start to draft. And there's your thin spot right there. So you don't want to pull it beyond there, because if you do, there's a possibility that it's going to break, because we've stretched this far beyond the staple length. So twist, let it build up, pull, and you can see that thin spot right here. That is where you want your twist to drop into. Not technical terms, terms I've made up. Let it drop in there. So twist it. You can even pull forward with your wrist, whatever works the best. You see that thin spot right there. Grab it, just glide it down, and there's your twist. So treadle. You can stop treadling, pull, get your thin spot right there. Let that twist build up. Get some extra twist on it. And, there's nothing wrong with getting a little over twist on these because of the nature of the yarn. It's it can be a delicate or sensitive yarn, especially if you are going to turn around and ply it again and make some of those shells or something of that nature. Then you definitely want to maybe overply it a little bit, which is what I do. Sometimes there's a few kinks in there, but when you go to ply it, it'll just wrap around so much easier on your core thread if you've got some extra twist in there. But yeah, try Corriedale or Romney. Those are great. Romney has a really long staple length, and so that would be probably a lot easier for you. But basically, let that twist build up right here under your thumb or whatever hand you've got going forward. Here, pull it. You'll see the staple length. The twist travels back right here, and then start treadling again. And there it goes. You can do little short ones too. Little short ones by just bringing your thumb forward, just pulling a little bit of that fiber out like that. And so it doesn't look like it's a thick and thin, but when you go to ply it, or once you set it, you'll see it. Now I like to take the advantage of a full thick and thin and do really big pieces. That's the most fun to me. So now that we've gotten that, let's see. I've got here is the merino bamboo that I dye. And so this, if I was going to do this one, take the braid apart first. Then I like to split it down the middle. Elizabeth, you do a lot of thick and thin unintentionally. Now I see why, and now I know. Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. When I was learning to spin my, initially, I think that I did a lot of lumpy, bumpy yarn. Gosh, I think a lot of us did. And, but yeah, it helps to know what worked best for me when I was doing that is, I kind of did a little short forward, I think is what you would call it. Like I said, I've never really taken an official spinning class, so I don't know the terms. I take, even with my dyeing, I take a very free thinking approach to all of it. And, life is easier for me and more fun if I just kind of do it that way. Whoops. So, I'm going to start doing it with this merino bamboo. Now this merino, because it's been dyed, it's a little bit more grabby, so it's easier. And everybody that knows me knows it. I love it. It's my favorite fiber. The bamboo is just so soft. Reminds me of silk, but it's not silk. Now, I do like silk. It's not that I don't. I do. But I really, really like bamboo. So if I was going to be starting new again, I'll get on here. And this merino bamboo is super easy to spin. So like before, I'll just get a nice single. Because you want to have a nice single when you go to take it off of your wheel. You want to be able, when you tie it in your little figure 8, you want to be able to wrap that and not have those. You want to have it to be nice and secure. So if you've got, a good yard or so of that works good. But with this too, with these, you can kind of control, see how they have the strips of bamboo going through here. You can control that a little bit. Now the staple length on this is not as long as a Cheviot, so I have to be kind of careful and not get too carried away. But you can see my thin spot right there. Grab it. Sometimes I'll take that and smooth it out. You can go as long as you want. If you just want a a slub every now and then. You don't have to go full, but I kind of get in a rhythm, and I'll do that, and I'll go 1, 2, 3, and then I'll grab again, get a big piece, and go through. Bamboo can be a little bit of a flyaway, so I have a kind of tendency to kind of squish it with my thumbs a little bit. Oh, you're welcome, Tammy. I'm happy to do it. When I started spinning, probably, I think it's like 13, 14 years ago, something like that. My kids were all smaller, and I worked a full-time job in town in the medical field. And so when I would come home from work and get everybody fed, pick up a daycare, get everybody fed for dinner, everybody ready for bed, I would go into my room and I would start spinning after that. And I would spin probably an hour or so a night. And it was such a great way for me to relax and just kind of unwind over the day. So I really enjoy that. So every time I sit down to the wheel, I think about when the boys were little, and that was sweet and fun and chaotic and stressful. And I think about how much spinning really made a difference for me because, I don't know, it was just really, really good for your mental health. That's for sure. So yeah, this merino is definitely softer, shorter staple. But as you can see, this is what I would probably recommend keeping your eye on is when that starts to thin out, grab it there so you can maintain that twist. And treadle slow. I have to remind myself to slow down. If it's breaking, slow down. Nothing wrong with going slow. My feet are kind of, even though it looks like the wheel's going fast, my feet are just kind of going like this. Pretty slow. And with the country, that is slow because you have to, once you get your bobbin filled about halfway on this, it gets heavy. And so you really have to kind of, get those legs going. And that's what happened. I've been doing this for years. I had a Kiwi. I sold it years ago. And then I finally got another one middle of last year. And I was treadling too fast and overspinning because I was so used to this being such a workhorse and having to, get my legs going and spin and, pump and pump and pump those feet and get those treadles going. But this is really a slow technique. There's not anything really fast about it until you get to where you perfect it and you feel it and there's a rhythm in it. So you'll feel the rhythm within your feet, your hands, the pulling. What I love about it, because I don't spin a nice perfect yarn, it takes a lot of effort and concentration for me to do that. For this is just very relaxing. I don't have to focus a whole bunch on this. Once you get the hang of it, you'll do. Now, if you do break it, if it breaks, no big deal. Get spinning again, get treadling, get that yarn going, join it, go a little bit longer, and then keep treadling and get that going. So once you get going and you feel comfortable with it, speed up a little bit. It's when you can also do by feel. You don't have to really focus on watching it. You'll feel the slubs. You can feel it within your hand. If your hand's gliding down and grabbing that, you'll feel it getting thinner there. And like I said, it's a really good, if you look up online, it's a really good way and a really good beginner or beginner yarn or a base yarn to start doing art yarns. When you ply, I think that's usually the thing. When you go to ply it and you do those coils, you can also, I think I did it in this one. Thought I saw it in this one. Maybe I didn't. I'll have to show that next time. But instead of just doing a coil or a ply like that, you can also take it and kind of slub it and wrap it up and over. I mean, there's just so many things you can do with it, really. But there's also nothing wrong with just having a nice thick and thin yarn. Whoops, see, I almost lost it there because I wasn't paying attention. That's super thin. I'm going to make sure I get a lot of twist in there because I don't want that to break for me. So let's hope it doesn't. Okay, and then I'm gonna start off, do a little small one, let that twist build up. But I can say, working with a yarn, I don't really knit, so I crochet, but doing that, I've never had it break on me while I was doing it, while I was knitting or crocheting with it. So that's a plus. Of course, you want to use bigger needles because you want to take into account not this size of yarn, but you want to take into account the size of the big slub or your thick part. But I think, you can spin 4 ounces of thick and thin fiber within probably a 35, 40-minute period, depending on how fast you go or whatever. But like I said, it's a nice relaxing spin. You can also spin this you could do comb top, commercial comb top, but like I said, it's going to be slippery, so you'll want to hold on to it. You could also, let me get here, you could also do it from a bat. So I think I have a bat I can grab. Here's a bat that I had pulled. Now this has a lot of bamboo in it, so you can also do it from a bat though too. So let's pull off some of this. Let's pull off. So this one, not necessarily pre-drafting, but I want to kind of get it even. When I card my bats, I usually just card them through once because I like to see a lot of definition in the color separation. So it might be a little on the clumpy side, but you can thick and thin from a bat as well. So we'll let that grab, start spinning. Like I said, you might have a bit more texture with this, but pull it with your wrist, get that thin spot. And you're working with different staple lengths on these fibers. Make sure it's got a nice good twist in there. This would make a really good fun coil yarn with all these colors. So the only thing, I suppose you could even do a thick and thin from, say, carded fleece. Definitely you could do that. If I do, look at that, back that out. Apply it. And you just get a fun yarn. I've done it from Rolags. That's a little more tricky, little trickier. Actually, from a bat is pretty easy because your fibers are all loose, but kind of makes these, if you ply it tight, it'll make it look like little coils through here. So we can do that eventually if you guys like. I think in this bat I have definitely bamboo. That's the turquoise. The white is probably a Corriedale. And the red I do think is Cheviot. This is going to be lumpy right here because of the bamboo, but that's okay. I'm okay with lumps. And then, like I said, I'm not a perfectionist, so it's like here I've got some lumps or whatnot in here. Does it bother me? No, it doesn't bother me. I smooth it out. I'll just smooth it out later. But This is absolutely one of my most favorite ways to spin. So what I've been wanting to do is dye up a couple pounds of the same colorway, and I want to actually crochet. I might even knit, because I would use big needles, a sweater or a cardigan out of that. That I think would come out really cool. The colors would just be kind of different and fun and funky, but it would have a lot of texture. So that's something that I'd like to do. Get this going again. But yeah, this is such a nice, great, relaxing spin. It's not hard on your shoulder or your wrist necessarily. I'm going to get that to join in. And you can. So don't feel like you're limited by your wheel, the size of your wheel. I mean, you are to a certain degree, because of the thickness, how thin, it has to be able to fit through your orifice. But you can definitely do it on a regular size orifice. I've done this. My first wheel was a Ashford traditional that I found secondhand off of Craigslist. And I was doing thick and thins on that. And it had the hooks like this. And so if you have one of those wheels that have the smaller orifices and you can change your hooks, I had just went to the hardware store and I bought bigger hooks like this, took out my small ones on my other wheel, and then put these on about every other spot because they were so close together. So I did it about every other spot. So you can use that if it'll spin and go around, if it'll go around the wheel. Okay. If not, and you have these hooks on here, you can also take a little pair of pliers and open it up a little bit. Cause usually that hook is, on the, older Kiwis or the older traditionals, it's a pretty tight like hook. And so you could just take that hook, grab it with some pliers, and then just kind of open it up a little bit. That will allow the yarn to go through there more freely. So that's another little trick that you can do. So I can't think of any other little tricks that I know for now. It just kind of all depends, I suppose, on the wheel and what you're doing. But yeah, I wanted to start with this yarn, this type of spinning, because it seems to be a pretty good basis for, let's see if I can just start right here, for the beginning of an art yarn. It definitely was the way that I had learned. The next thing I went on to was core spinning. And so we can do that too if you'd like. I plan on doing a series and popping on here every Tuesday. And doing something different. I'm always crafting or doing something spinning wise. See if you get your bat. You could do really, look how big. You could do huge ones. It keeps me accountable as well. I like that. Showing up and being at the same place at the same time every week helps me to plan what I'm doing, helps me to stay on top of things. One of my goals this year, I'm going to say, that reminds me of like a hot air balloon. But one of my goals this year, I don't want to say resolutions, but one of my goals is to complete more finished projects. And so if I can plan things out and I'm spinning my yarns, isn't that cool? I really love that. It'll keep me accountable. It'll keep me on top of things. I won't have a bunch of whips, hopefully not. I finally finished, you guys probably saw on there that I posted that I finally finished my cardigan. It was so fun. And so, yeah, I really want to get with that. But, yeah, the plying techniques. Yeah, for sure. I could do plying. If I get some thick and thins spun up, I can show a couple different plying techniques next Tuesday. I was going to plan on doing that. And then I was also going to plan on doing let me pull this off. a little crochet along for the what do you call them? Wristless wrist warmers. wrist warmers. So I didn't use a pattern on this. A lot of the crochet I do, I don't use patterns, but I kind of wrote down what I did. And I was going to do a little crochet along with these because I did it with the thick and thin yarn. So this is the yarn that I was going to use for that next week. I did spin this thicker. And so I'm going to have to use a bigger hook. I think I used a J hook on this. But yeah, it was real fun, easy to do. I think it didn't take me more than half an hour, 45 minutes. I'm not quite sure. Spinning very fine yarn would be helpful as well. Yeah. So this was the other thing I was going to plan on doing that. I think next week I'm going to do this, and then that'll